Welcome to Ambition Meets Inner Peace. I am so glad that you're here. If you are starting to feel like in your life, maybe several situations, maybe you have goals that you're running, that you create, and then you actually accomplish them, and yet you don't feel as fulfilled or successful or happy as you thought you might. Um, or if you don't set goals anymore because you've run that rat trap and you did never felt better about accomplishing things, and so you've kind of just dwindled and decided not to dream so big, this is your webcast. Also, one more group that I want to talk about is the people who are doing it, right? Who are getting those big goals still, and they're still driving forward, and yet some parts of you don't feel completely aligned. Well, you're in the right place too. So who I am is I am Christina Smith, and I am a life and a health coach that talks about how somebody said this week, how we invite the divine feminine into our life. I don't know if I exactly would explain it that way, but I would say how we learn to tune into our inner wisdom, how to get back to our intuition, the things that may not be so practical, our feelings, our gut instincts, all of those types of things. That's really where I focus on, is how we make decisions in our everyday life that are in alignment with what we truly, truly want. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about ambition, what we learned about attainment, inner peace, inner wisdom, and our inner guidance system, and harmony, and maybe a few other things. But what we're not going to talk about today is time or task management, and we're not going to talk about doing more. Okay, so this isn't about how you can get more done in your day. This is about how we feel really, really good about what we're doing in our day. Sound good? So the first thing that I want to talk about is ambition and inner peace. And maybe the reason people talk about me bringing in feminine divine energy is because I like to see how we're really the energies that we're using in life, right? And so ambition is often a masculine related word, and it can be both. It just depends on how we go for it, right? So the masculine energy is really about pushing and sacrificing and mission and staying focused and getting that mission done, that very strong warrior type energy. And the feminine energy is more of the lover energy. They kind of love things along and go with flow, and there's no exactness about it, right? It's more about they do it with an instinct, with a gut instinct. So in our world, we've really learned how to come from the masculine, right? We, even the way that we raise our kids, right? You go to school, you get good grades so you can get into a good college, and you get into a good college so that you can get a good job, and you get a good job so that you can pay for your house, and so that you can have a family, and so that you can get a promotion, and so that you can get whatever other goals that you want done in your life done. That's a very chronological, this thing adds up to that thing kind of way of thinking, which is definitely very masculine. I am not knocking the masculine. The masculine has gotten a lot done in our world. Um, Things get accomplished, and we all have both masculine and feminine energy. So, I mean, I have a lot of masculine energy. I'm really good at making a big, giant goal and then sacrificing, pushing until I get it done. It's not always happy, right? But I grew up with that thought that you'll be happy when you get to college. You'll be happy when you get your job. You'll be happy when you own your house. So I always pushed the happy off, right? So I never expected to be happy along the journey. Now, the feminine comes from a completely different source. The feminine wants to be happy in the moment. The feminine wants to know that there's a purpose for everything, that if she's going to sacrifice, the thing that she's sacrificing for had better be important enough to give up that emotion or that feeling now. So if I'm going to sacrifice to be happy later, it better be 10 times as good as me just choosing to be happy now. That's kind of the feminine energy, right? So in our world, we learned a lot about mission and purpose and driven, and it's a very stressful life, right? Because you got to push harder, you got to work harder if you want to be number one, all of that kind of energy. Um, and we're honored for that energy, right? Because people will say, oh, that's Christina. She really gets things done. She can really accomplish goals. She can help you accomplish goals. That's characteristics that we're often honored for, or at least I have been. And we're not always honored for our own inner wisdom, especially if things don't go as people expect them to or want them to, right? Then all of a sudden it's like, well, why didn't you do it the logical way? While I was growing up, common sense was a big thing. Things always had to be done by common sense, which meant that there was some practical way of living, some right way. And then all other ways were kind of really risky. So we've learned that it's really risky to be in that feminine energy, right? To listen to our gut rather than what should be or has to be done. And so that's how we've learned to really come into our careers, right? We get our college degree in whatever area we want to focus on, and then we go get that entry-level job, or we go for more education, get our master's or our doctorate, whatever that is, whatever that path is. There's a very structured path. Where the feminine is less structured. It's more of a flow, more of a gut feeling, more of the emotion, which is harder to pin down into, does having guilt this much amount of time and sadness this amount of time and changing my mind this amount of time equals success? It doesn't work that way, right? So we need both those things, though. And we know this, right? So if we want to have ambition, so let's go back to the beginning, right? We want to have ambition and we want to have inner peace. We need to find a way that kind of goes in between. And what I found going back in my history is about 7 or 8 years ago, I was married. I had a good on paper kind of life. Good on paper meaning I had a good job, I had a great husband, healthy, happy kids. All of that stuff was really fine. And yet I was crying on the way to work every day. My job wasn't bad. I didn't have a mean boss. I just was completely unhappy and I couldn't figure out why. And then one day someone asked me, well, what is it that you want? And I had no idea what that was. I thought I had wanted all these other goals, but I had accomplished a lot of them and I didn't feel like I thought I was going to feel. And so if you've ever accomplished a big goal and then realized, wow, that wasn't even like, so what? Like, I thought I would feel better about this than I did. Then this is what I'm talking about. And what I'm talking about is there's Danielle Laporte is a Canadian author who has written a couple of books. I'm actually going to pull out of two different pieces today because Ambition Meets Inner Peace is really about one, the Firestarter Sessions, which is the first book that she wrote out of these two that I'm going to talk to you about. And that is really about how we figure out all the good and our desires and our gifts and how we can push that up into the world and offer it to the world in some way. It doesn't have to be our livelihood. It could be just a way that we volunteer or just give or are more knowledgeable or guide others, whatever that is. We just share wisdom. It's really about how we get more fired up about whatever it is we want to get more fired up about and bring it out in a way that we feel really good, that we have that inner peace and that ambition at the same time. The second book, if you're not looking to change your your livelihood section, right? So it might be another area of your life, maybe relationships or creativity. Or maybe you have no idea. Maybe it could be your livelihood and you're just so confused you have no idea. Then I would suggest you start with the Desire Map. And the Desire Map is a book that came out of the Fire Starter sessions, out of one chapter that was in there. And if it turned out to be the most popular section of the Firestarter sessions, which was like really opening us up to what is it that we truly desire underneath everything? What is it that we truly want to feel? And once we know that, we can then easily bring ambition and inner peace together. They can work in synergy rather than in conflict. So before I go into a giant commercial about that, that's not what I'm trying to do. I just want you to know that that's where all this information is coming from, those two courses. But I'm going to read a little bit out of the Fire Starter session. So I invite you to feel free to close your eyes, take a few breaths. I'm just going to read out of the Fire Starter Sessions book, which I know you could do yourself, but sometimes it feels really good to have somebody read these words to you. And let's face it, Danielle could tell you these things better than I could, so I'm just going to use her words. So deep breath in through the nose and out through the nose. They don't tell us that in most schools or time management seminars, and not many employee manuals will instruct you to be strategic with your desires. Leverage your contradictions. Say no to resentment and yes to inspiration. Make ease a metric of success. These precepts are kindling for your soul fire. They are the pathways to what you truly want. They are the reason this course exists. Soul fire. Our soul fire is an ancient and integral part to each of us, inextinguishable but susceptible to being dimmed to faintness. It can get cloaked in layers of self-doubt. We doubt the practicality of enthusiasm and the legitimacy of our impulses. We doubt that breaking the rules will earn us a raise or that speaking in the first person will attract the right clients. We worry that our shine will be construed as showing off and will get shot down. Or that if we really let our opinions flare, we'll burn bridges that we may need to cross again someday. Self-doubt is so insidious that it not only renders us stuck in our lives, but it actually weakens our ability to dream about what living unleashed would look like. And here's the thing. The mere act of dreaming is a vitalizing, life-affirming endeavor. As it turns out, using your imagination is very, very good for your well-being. Einstein believed that imagination was even more important than knowledge itself. Imagine your ideal life as a mountain of treasures piled high in front of you. It's in the near distance, close enough to walk to on your lunch break. Pile up that mountain of delight with whatever you like. Gold bullion, flat abs, laughing friends, really good times with your family, a career that is bursting with gratification and intrigue, the love of your life, applause, respect, cheers when you cross the finish line, eco-friendly everything, humanitarian relief efforts, the wealth of health, a 5-speed coupe with a sunroof, a first-class trip to Monaco, light rays of illumination and peace emanating from you as to attract devotees or babes or both. Throw in some multiple orgasms and a fat year-end bonus if that feels good. That does feel good, right? You're standing at a fork in the road. Presumably, both roads will lead to your ideal life. There are two signs pointing to your destination. One says, your way. The other says, their way. Which path do you think will be more fun? Never mind about enlightenment or building your credibility. Which path will have more free falls and heart rushes and more laughs and daring? If you're thinking their way has some inviting merits, you are right, it does. And I'm not being cynical. Their way is proven, and proven can save you a lot of time and heartache. My role models' victories and bankruptcies, both spiritual and financial, have saved me from expensive mistakes and leveled out my learning curve. The way my soul sisters live their lives deeply influences the choices that I make in my own life. Have you ever said to a friend in so many words, "Geez, sorry you had to go through that, but now I don't have to. Thanks, man." Among true friends, it's obvious that we're learning lessons for one another, sparing each other of some pain, eating some karma for the team. You can steer your destiny. You can create the life you want in great detail, but you can't do it alone. Their way can be very instructive and comforting, and comfort is a beautiful thing when you're risking it all. But their way is an old story, albeit potentially useful. It's history. It's a myth of experience that we can choose to buy in or not. Be clear about that. Take what you want from the tried and true archives and leave the rest. Ultimately, it's all your call. Even when stuff seems out of your control, you get to choose how you respond or react to everything. Your way. Slightly reckless, downright defiant, uncharted, seat of the pants. Make it up as you go. Not a leg to stand on. What will your mother say? You could bomb. You could be so successful that your friends won't recognize you. Your real friends always knew you had it in you. You could break through. Your way. The Soulfire way. Ablaze with passion. Passion that can't be faked. Passion the world cannot deny. This experience is intended to help you up your dreams or revive or refine them. I want you to make dream refinement a regular practice. Floss, stretch, eat your greens, dream, and repeat. Your desires reflect what's truest about you. Let me repeat that. Your desires reflect what's truest about you. If your current reality is nowhere close to the life you want, dreams are the fuel that will move you forward. You want to access your full range of power, then commit to dreaming about your ideal life. Your subconscious and your articulated desires are veins of gold that lead to whatever you want to call prosperity. No matter where you are in your life, whether you're a soaring entrepreneur, an executive in a rut, a student revving up to save the planet, or a stay-at-home mom with an identity crisis, an urban shaman wandering, or a well-established, you need to consciously cultivate your dreams. We need to tend to our desires with the same vigilance we would give to the fire that cooks our food, warms our bones in the night, and keeps the wolves away. Of course, tending to your deep wishes is not a matter of bodily life or death. Without passion, you can still make the rent, be a good guy, and limp along for lifetimes, as many of us do. You'll survive, but we're not here to talk about surviving or justifying just getting by. This is an inquiry into what makes us thrive. So just as maybe you still have your eyes closed, take a breath. And then just start thinking about your dreams. What dreams do you have? Maybe come up with 3 of your biggest dreams or most immediate dreams, or even your craziest dreams if you think they're crazy. And we're going to take those into the next part. So when you have those, take a few breaths, open your eyes, come back to the room. And now we're just going to ask ourselves a few questions. So maybe get out your notebook or your journal. And I just want you to ask yourself a few questions about your dreams. There's 3 questions and then a worksheet, which I will attach, put in the chat, and then I'll also attach it. So the first question that's not on the worksheet is, what I know to be true about me and my dreams. What you know to be true about you and your dreams. And for example, what do you know? What I know about my dreams is that what's true for me in my dreams is that I know that I can listen to my inner gut to get me there. That I can, that connection and compassion are 2 of my core desired feelings. And so I want to make sure that I feel connected and compassionate as I'm moving forward towards my dreams. So it could be anything. And really where I should have started was with your 3 big dreams, but you're going to get that in your worksheet, so I didn't want to duplicate for you. So what are you grateful to in regards? We're going to talk about this one section of our life. So Danielle Laporte separates our circle of life, all the parts of our life, into 5 pieces. And one of those is creativity, one of those is relationships, one of those is spirituality, and one of those is body and wellness, and then the last one is livelihood. And I'm going to forget the exact word, but it's livelihood and the way we live, basically, the things that we have in our lives. So we're going to focus on that piece. So out of the physical, tangible things that you want, right? The vision board types of things that you could cut out pictures and put them up there. And your livelihood, what are you grateful for when it comes to your livelihood or what it is that you do, your mission? So the first one was truth about you and your dreams. The second one is, what are you grateful for when it comes to the livelihood that you already have right now? And then the second piece to that one, which is the third question, last piece, what's not working in that area? What pieces in your livelihood area aren't working? Are you not making enough money to make ends meet? Are you have a bad boss, overwhelmed with work too many hours, don't work enough hours? I don't know, whatever's not working for you right now. And then I invite you after this to really start looking at these questions, especially those last 2. So what am I grateful for in this area, right? And this isn't about being forced gratitude, right? Because back 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when I was crying on my way to work, it would have been really tough for somebody to tell me, hey, you just need to be more grateful. Just be grateful. Believe me, I got that advice often. And I felt even more shamed for not being grateful. I felt really bad. Like, why can I not feel better about myself? Why I should feel good. My life is great on paper. And that felt even more shaming, right? Is telling myself why I'm doing it wrong, how I'm living my life wrong. So we don't want to do that. We want to just be truly, what are we grateful for? Is it enough to pay the rent that I'm getting for, what am I getting in return? Is there anybody nice at work that I have a good connection with that maybe I wouldn't have met them if it wasn't for that work? So whatever it is, we just want to take a look at that and see what is that you are truly grateful for, that you are connecting to with emotion. None of that baloney, I should feel good because it provides me this, but what do you really emotionally connect to at work? And then be really honest, start keeping track. What's not working for you at work? Is there things that you could do differently, or is it something that's like a theme and you realize that this might be your intuition or your inner guidance system saying, hey, we don't need to, burn the bridge, like Danielle said. This isn't about burning bridges. This is about really getting curious about what are my truest desires, because our truest desires are what really tells us the most about ourselves. That's who we truly, truly are underneath all of that shame and all of that other stuff that we might be hiding. So, with that in mind, I'm going to post the worksheet link. I would love you to really spend time looking at those questions. You don't have to print it out. If you have a journal already, just write your answers in the journal, but I do suggest that you write them down. There's something about the physicality of actually taking the pen or pencil to pad that kind of grounds them in our brains and really keeps us focused on them, right? And that's what we want to be focused on. And then since this is a mini session, I just wanted to give you a couple of those pieces. And then I just want to close really quickly with this beautiful grounding that Danielle Laporte wrote. It's called The Bright Privilege. And I'm going to find it here somewhere. The Bright Privilege. Your aspirations are not a race, an exam, or a series of skill testing questions that permit you to proceed. Your every breath fuels your expansion into more sacred desires, eternal permission. Carry your dream like a dream that wants to be carried, like a precious golden egg, an incredible torch, or the very cure itself. Whisper to it. Strap it to your back with your water supplies and climb, running. Put it on the parade float and hear people applaud. Feed it really good food. Don't tell a soul. It's a great privilege to dream. Every imagining getting attention from the stars, and then to make the motion and mudras that turn light into matter. Well, there is nothing brighter than the place where heaven meets the earth. And that's all I really have for you. I would love to hear, I'll unpause this and talk to the people that came live, but I would love to hear from anybody who's watching the recording and y'all live after we're done here, to really hear about, how did those questions go for you? What was meaningful or impactful to you? Everybody's got different questions. Oh, and there's one piece I want to touch on when it comes to that worksheet. I believe it's the second question. It says, why is this dream important to you? When it says that, make sure that you keep asking yourself that question, why, right? So, my dream is to go on 4 vacations a year. Why? Because I like vacation. Why? Because I feel relaxed on vacation. Why? Because I don't have anything else to do. I'm away from all my normal stuff. Um, and why? Because I really make time for peace. So, why I really want to be on vacation 4 times a year is so that I can feel peace 4 times a year. So, go underneath that, every time until you hit that heart of it. Like, why is it that you want to be on vacation? So that I can refresh, so that I can shut down and I can, come back refreshed and inspired and on fire about what it is that I do. That's the why. It's not because I just want to go away, right? It's because I have a desire of a feeling, a certain feeling. And that feeling is, feeling at peace and feeling freedom, basically. Um, so go through those questions, and I'd love to hear back from you. Any questions you have about the questions, or any interesting things that you learned about yourself by going through them. It is one section of the fire session, the fire starter sessions course. So if that looks interesting, I would really, really love to talk to you more about that, or even the desire map. So let me know what you're interested in. We do have a desire map starting next week. So if you're interested, it's going to be the last desire map at this pricing. The pricing does go up in 2020. So grab it now. And again, any questions, feel free to email me, Christina with the CH at christina-smith.com. Bye.